The phone rang at 3 in the morning, cutting through the silence like a blade through silk. I reached for it in the dark, my hand trembling not from cold, but from that primal fear every mother knows when the phone rings at an ungodly hour. My oldest son, Ethan's name, glowed on the screen. He's a commercial pilot, always somewhere between cities, between time zones, and I'd grown used to his irregular schedules. But 3 a.m.? My heart lurched. "Mom," he said, his voice tight and strange, like wire pulled too thin. "Mom, please tell me Claire's at home." I blinked into the darkness, confused, still half caught in whatever dream I'd been pulled from. I turned my head toward the bedroom doorway, listening. "Yes, honey," I whispered, trying not to wake anyone. "She went to bed hours ago." "Why?" The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, suffocating, filled with something I couldn't name yet. "Then who's sitting in seat 14B on my flight right now?" His words landed like stones in my chest. "What?" Ethan's breath crackled through the speaker. "Mom, I'm looking at her. Right now. Same hair, same face, same scar on her left hand from when she burned herself making coffee last month. It's Claire. She's on this plane heading to Miami. But you just said she's home. Before I dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, please like and subscribe. It helps me keep sharing more." I sat up slowly, the sheets cold against my skin, and I felt the first crack of something breaking inside my understanding of the world. I'm Marion Fletcher, 68 years old, and until that phone call, I thought I knew my family. I thought I understood the shape of our lives, the routines we'd built over decades. My husband died 6 years ago, leaving me in this house with too many rooms and too many memories. Ethan, my oldest, married Claire 5 years back, and they gave me a grandson, a bright-eyed boy named Theo, who just turned 4. They lived 3 streets over in a brick house with a garden Claire tended obsessively. My younger son, Lucas, worked as an EMT and lived in an apartment downtown. Our lives were ordinary, predictable, safe. Or so I believed. "Stay on the line," I told Ethan, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm going to check." I moved through the dark hallway, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. The house felt different suddenly, like a place I'd never been before, every shadow suspicious, every creak a betrayal. I reached the guest room where Claire had been staying for the past 2 weeks. Ethan was on a long-haul rotation, and Claire said she didn't want to be alone in their house with Theo, that the nights felt too long, too empty. I'd welcomed her without question. What grandmother wouldn't? I pushed the door open slowly. The room was dark except for the thin line of streetlight coming through the curtains. The bed was occupied, a figure curled beneath the blankets, dark hair spilling across the pillow. My heart hammered. "She's here," I whispered into the phone. "I can see her. Then who the hell is on my plane?" Ethan's voice cracked. I moved closer, each step feeling like walking through water, and when I was close enough, I could hear breathing, soft and even, the rhythm of someone deep in sleep. I reached out, my hand shaking, and touched the shoulder beneath the blanket. The figure stirred. A face turned toward me, eyes blinking open in confusion. It was Claire. Her face, her voice, even the small mole near her right eyebrow. "Marion?" she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. "What's wrong?" I stepped back. The phone pressed so hard against my ear it hurt. "Ethan," I breathed. "She's here. I'm looking right at her." The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. When Ethan finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "Then there are 2 of them." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Claire sat up in bed now, rubbing her eyes, and in the dim light she looked so ordinary, so completely herself, that I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of what Ethan was suggesting. But I couldn't laugh, because somewhere 30,000 feet above the earth, my son was staring at another woman who wore my daughter-in-law's face. "Who are you talking to?" Claire asked, her voice small and confused. I didn't answer. I couldn't. How do you explain to someone that they might not be who they think they are? Or worse, that someone else is pretending to be them so convincingly that even their own husband can't tell the difference? "Ethan, I have to go," I said quietly. "Don't hang up," he said urgently. "Mom, something's very wrong here." "I know," I whispered and ended the call. Claire was standing now, wrapped in one of my old robes, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "What's happening? Is Ethan okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her, searching for something, anything, that would tell me this wasn't real, that I was still asleep and none of this was happening. But she was solid, real, warm. I could smell the lavender lotion she always used before bed. "He's fine," I lied, my mouth dry. "Just a work thing. Go back to sleep." She nodded slowly, but suspicion flickered in her eyes. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She climbed back into bed, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. I left the room and closed the door, then stood in the hallway with my back against the wall, my heart beating so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. A photo. I opened it with trembling fingers. The image was dark, taken from an angle, but clear enough. A woman sat in an airplane seat, her profile turned toward the window. Dark hair pulled back in a loose bun, the same delicate nose, the same curve of her jaw. She wore a navy blazer I recognized because I'd helped Claire pick it out last spring. I zoomed in on her left hand resting on the armrest. There, just above her thumb, was a small, crescent-shaped scar. The burn from the coffee pot. My vision blurred. I texted back, hands shaking too hard to type properly. "Where is the plane going?" "Miami. Landing in 4 hours." I closed my eyes and pressed my forehead against the cool wall. 2 women. Both Claire, both real. One asleep in my guest room. One flying through the night toward Florida. And somewhere between them was a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to find. But I had to. For Ethan. For Theo. For all of us. Because if I'd learned anything in 68 years, it's that secrets buried deep don't stay buried forever. They claw their way up eventually, and when they do, they bring everything crashing down with them. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink, and stared out the window at the empty street. Somewhere out there, someone was living a lie. And I was going to find out who. But first, I had to figure out which Claire was real, and what that even meant anymore. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. How could I? I sat at the kitchen table, watching the sky slowly bruise from black to gray, to that pale, uncertain blue that comes before dawn, and I thought about all the small moments I might have missed, all the tiny inconsistencies I'd dismissed as tiredness or stress. Claire had been staying with me for 2 weeks. Had it really been her the whole time? I replayed conversations in my mind, searching for clues. There was the morning she forgot how Theo liked his pancakes, insisted he wanted blueberries when he'd always hated them. I'd laughed it off, told her even mothers forget sometimes. Then the day she couldn't find the spare key we kept hidden under the 3rd flower pot, the one she'd used 100 times before. She'd knocked instead, apologized, said her mind was scattered. I'd believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now those small moments felt enormous, like cracks in a foundation I'd never thought to inspect. At 6:30, I heard movement upstairs. Claire's footsteps, light and familiar, moving toward the bathroom. The water ran. The toilet flushed. Normal sounds of a normal morning in a house that no longer felt normal at all. She came downstairs 20 minutes later, dressed in jeans and a cream sweater, her hair still damp from the shower. "Morning, Marion," she said, smiling that easy smile I'd grown to love over the years. "Coffee?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. She moved through my kitchen like she'd always done, knowing where the mugs were, how I took my coffee, 2 sugars and a splash of cream. She hummed softly, some tune I didn't recognize, and poured 2 cups. We sat across from each other at the small table, steam rising between us like a barrier neither of us could see. "You okay?" she asked, studying my face. "You look tired." "Didn't sleep well," I admitted. That much was true. She reached across and squeezed my hand. Her skin was warm, real, solid. Her wedding ring caught the morning light, the small diamond Ethan had saved for months to buy. "You can talk to me, you know? About anything? Can I?" The words came out sharper than I intended. She pulled her hand back slowly, confusion darkening her features. "Of course." "Marion, what's wrong?" "Everything and nothing." I forced myself to breathe evenly. "Tell me about yesterday. What did you do while I was at the grocery store?" She blinked, taken off guard by the question. "Yesterday? I was here. Played with Theo, did some laundry, made lunch." "Why? What did you make?" "What? For lunch? What did you make for lunch?" She frowned, a small crease forming between her eyebrows. "I made grilled cheese and tomato soup, Theo's favorite. That was true. I'd seen the dishes in the sink when I got home, smelled the butter and bread. But I pushed further, testing. And what did Theo say about it?" She hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, but I caught it. "He said it was good." "Did he? Or did he say the cheese was too melty and he wanted the crunchy kind?" Her face went very still. "Right. Yes. He did say that." I nodded slowly, my chest tight. The Claire I knew would have remembered that detail immediately. Theo had complained loudly about the cheese, dramatically refusing to eat until she promised to make it crunchier next time. It wasn't something you forgot about your own son, not hours later. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Ethan. "She got off the plane. I lost her in the terminal, but I'm looking. Don't let Claire out of your sight." I turned the phone face down and forced myself to smile at the woman across from me. "Where's Theo this morning?" "With Lucas," she said. "Remember? He took him to the Children's Museum." Right. I hadn't remembered, but I nodded anyway. She stood, carried her mug to the sink, and stared out the window at the garden. "Marion," she said quietly, her back to me. "If something's bothering you, please just tell me. I'm family. Are you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. She turned slowly, her face pale. "What?" I stood, my legs unsteady. "Are you family? Are you who you say you are?" The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a car passing outside. Claire's expression shifted through confusion, hurt, and then something else. Something harder to read. "I don't understand what you're asking me. Don't you?" My voice was shaking now, anger and fear mixing into something sharp and bitter. "Because I'm starting to think I don't know you at all." Tears welled in her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were real or performed. "Marion, you're scaring me. Subscribe now if you want to know what happens when the truth comes out. Don't wait until you're unprepared like I was." She moved toward me, hands outstretched, but I stepped back. "Don't. Just don't. Where were you really last night? I was here, in bed, asleep. You saw me. I saw someone. But Ethan saw you too, on a plane to Miami. Her face went white. That's impossible. Is it? She sank into a chair, her hands gripping the edge of the table. I don't know what's happening, but I swear to you, I was here. I didn't move. I didn't believe her, and I didn't not believe her, and that uncertainty felt like standing on ice that was cracking beneath my feet. My phone rang. Ethan. I answered immediately, turning away from Claire. Mom, he said, breathless. I found security footage. She met someone at baggage claim, a man. They left together. Who? I don't know. But Mom, I got a partial plate on the car. I'm sending it to Lucas. See if he can run it through his contacts at the precinct. Good, I managed. Ethan paused. How's Claire? Acting like Claire? I glanced back at her. She was crying now, her shoulders shaking, her face buried in her hands. Either this was the performance of a lifetime, or she genuinely had no idea what was happening. Yes, I said quietly. Exactly like Claire. That's what I'm afraid of, Ethan whispered. I hung up and sat back down across from her. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. I don't know what's going on, she said, her voice breaking. But I swear on Theo's life, I'm telling you the truth. The mention of my grandson hit me like a fist. No one who loved that boy would use his name to lie. Would they? Then help me understand, I said, my voice softer now. Help me understand how you can be in two places at once. She shook her head slowly. I can't, because I don't know. We sat there in the morning light. Two women who'd once trusted each other completely, now separated by a chasm of doubt neither of us knew how to cross. And somewhere in Florida, another woman with Claire's face was meeting a stranger, climbing into a car, driving toward a destination I couldn't begin to guess. I thought about waking up this morning, about how simple everything had seemed just hours ago. My biggest concern had been whether to plant tulips or daisies in the front garden this spring. Now I was sitting across from a woman I wasn't sure I knew, in a house that no longer felt like home, trying to solve a mystery that didn't make sense in any world I understood. But here's what I did know. Someone was lying, and until I figured out who and why, no one in this family was safe. By noon, Lucas arrived with Theo. My grandson burst through the door like he always did, all energy and noise and joy, completely unaware that the world around him was fracturing. He ran straight to Claire, who scooped him up and held him so tightly I saw her knuckles go white. Mama, you're squishing me. He giggled, and she loosened her grip but didn't let go, pressing her face into his hair like she was drowning and he was air. Lucas hung back in the doorway, reading the room with the same instinct that made him good at his job. His eyes moved from Claire to me and back again. We need to talk, I said quietly. He nodded. Outside. The three of us stepped onto the back porch while Theo settled in front of the television with a cartoon. The morning had warmed into something almost pleasant, birds singing in the oak tree. The smell of cut grass drifting from a neighbor's yard, everything perfectly normal except for the fact that nothing was normal anymore. Mom, what's going on? Lucas asked. Ethan called me, said something about Claire being in two places. He told you. I filled him in on everything. The phone call, the photo, the security footage, the car. Lucas listened without interrupting, his face growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. That's impossible, he finally said. I know, but it's happening. He looked through the window at Claire, who was sitting on the floor now with Theo, building something out of blocks. She looks like Claire, acts like her. Exactly, I said. That's the problem. Lucas ran a hand through his dark hair. a gesture so much like his father's that it hurt to watch. Okay. Let's think logically. Twins? She doesn't have a twin. We've known her family for years. There's no one. Then what? A doppelganger? He said it like a joke, but neither of us laughed. I don't know, I admitted. But Ethan saw her. Really saw her. The scar, the ring, everything. Lucas pulled out his phone. I got the partial plate. Called in a favor. Had someone run it. The car's registered to a company called Hartley Consulting Group in Miami. Ever heard of it? I shook my head. What kind of consulting? That's the thing. There's almost no information. Website's bare bones, no client list, no employee directory. It's a shell. For what? He met my eyes. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. We went back inside. Claire had her phone out now, showing Theo pictures of something, both of them laughing. The sound should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a knife twisting. Lucas cleared his throat. Claire, can I ask you something? She looked up, still smiling. Of course. Have you ever heard of Hartley Consulting Group? The smile didn't falter. No. Why? Just something that came up. You're sure? Positive. She stood, brushing off her jeans. Why are you asking me this? Because your double got into a car registered to that company this morning in Miami. The room went silent. Even Theo stopped playing, sensing the shift in energy. That's not funny, Lucas. I'm not joking. She looked at me, then back at Lucas. I don't know what you think is happening, but I haven't been to Miami in 3 years. We went for Ethan's birthday, remember? We stayed at that hotel on the beach, and Theo got stung by a jellyfish. I did remember. Every detail she mentioned was true. Prove it, Lucas said. What? Prove you're Claire. Show us something only she would know. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is insane. Lucas, I'm your sister-in-law. We've known each other for 5 years. You were at my wedding. You're Theo's godfather. Then this should be easy. Her face hardened. Fine. Marion's favorite flower is lavender. She takes her coffee with 2 sugars and cream. Lucas is allergic to shellfish and won't admit it because he's too proud. Ethan proposed to me at the lighthouse on Cape May on a Tuesday in October because he said Tuesdays were underrated. Theo's middle name is James after Marion's father. She rattled off facts like ammunition, each one accurate, each one something only Claire would know. Lucas nodded slowly. Okay, that's good. But here's my question. If you know all that, why don't you know what Hartley Consulting is? Because I don't. Claire's voice rose, frustration bleeding through. I don't know because I've never heard of it. Someone else is using my face, my identity, and you're all acting like I'm the one who's lying. Theo started crying. Mama, why are you yelling? Claire immediately softened, knelt down, pulled him close. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. Mama's just stressed, but everything's okay. Lucas and I exchanged a look. Nothing about this was okay. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Got a name from the security guard? The man she met is Victor Hartley, CEO of the consulting group, running a background check now. I showed the message to Lucas. He swore under his breath. Marion, I think you need to ask Claire about Victor Hartley. I don't know anyone named Victor Hartley, she said. Overhearing? But you were just seen with him. She stood abruptly, Theo still clinging to her leg. I wasn't. How many times do I have to say it? I was here. Lucas stepped closer. Then let's prove it. How? Security cameras, your phone's GPS, credit card transactions, anything that shows you didn't leave this house last night? She blinked, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. I didn't use my credit card. I was asleep. And Marion doesn't have security cameras. What about your phone? I left it upstairs. It's been charging all night. Lucas nodded. Then that'll show you were here. We can check the location history. Go get it. She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Then she turned and went upstairs. As soon as she was gone, Lucas leaned in close. Mom, I don't think that's Claire. My chest tightened. How can you tell? I can't, but something's off. The way she hesitated. The way she's too perfect with the details, like she's reading from a script. What do? We wait. See what the phone says. If it shows she was here, then maybe we're wrong. And if it doesn't, then we're dealing with something a lot more dangerous than a case of mistaken identity. Claire came back down holding her phone. She unlocked it, pulled up the location settings, and handed it to Lucas without a word. He scrolled through the data, his expression unreadable. Well? I asked. He looked up, his face grim. The phone was here all night, right here in this house. Relief flooded through me, but Lucas wasn't done. But it didn't move. At all. Not even to the bathroom or the kitchen. It was in one spot, plugged into the charger, from 10 p.m. until now. Like someone left it behind on purpose. The air seemed to leave the room. If you're not going to believe me no matter what I do, then what's the point? Claire's voice was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. I'm your family. I'm Theo's mother. I'm Ethan's wife. And you're treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. She grabbed Theo's hand. Come on, sweetheart. We're leaving. Wait, I said, but she was already at the door. Claire, please. She stopped, her back to me. When you figure out who you can trust, call me. But until then, I can't be here. The door slammed shut. Theo's confused crying echoed from outside, then faded as they got into her car and drove away. Lucas and I stood in the empty living room, the weight of what just happened pressing down like a physical thing. Did we just make a terrible mistake? I whispered. I don't know, he admitted. But I think we're about to find out. The house felt hollow after they left. I sat on the couch where Theo had been playing with his blocks just minutes before, picking up a red one and turning it over in my hands like it might hold answers. Lucas paced, his phone pressed to his ear, talking in low tones to someone about background checks and flight records. I wasn't listening. I was replaying every interaction with Claire over the past 2 weeks, dissecting every word, every gesture, trying to find the moment things stopped making sense. Your gut is telling you something, my husband used to say. Listen to it, but my gut was giving me 2 different messages, and I didn't know which to trust. The woman who just left felt like Claire. The fear in her eyes was real. The way she held Theo was real. But so was the woman on that plane. So was the car registered to a company that didn't exist. So was the phone that stayed in one place all night like evidence planted at a crime scene. Mom, Lucas said, ending his call. Ethan just landed in Miami. He's going to Hartley's office. I looked up. Alone? What else can he do? Call the police and say what? My wife's identical twin who doesn't exist met a stranger at an airport? This is insane. It's something. He sat down heavily beside me. I got Victor Hartley's background. Clean. Too clean. No criminal record, no debt, no red flags. But here's the weird part. He didn't exist before 8 years ago. What do you mean? I mean, there's no trace of him before then. No birth certificate, no school records, no prior addresses. He just appeared in Miami 8 years ago with a business degree and enough money to start Hartley Consulting. I felt cold. People don't just appear. Exactly. Lucas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. There's something else. I pulled Hartley Consulting's financial records. They're buried, but I have a buddy who's good with this stuff. The company doesn't make money from consulting. Not really. It's funded by something else. Something offshore. What does that mean? It means someone's paying them to exist. And I think that someone wanted access to our family? Why? That's the question. He looked at me. Mom, what if Claire's been working with them? What if she's been lying to us this whole time? No. I said it too quickly, too defensively. She wouldn't. You don't know that. I stood up, anger flaring. I do. I know her. She loves Ethan. She loves Theo. People lie, Mom, especially when there's money involved. I turned on him. Don't you dare make this about money. Your brother loves her. They have a life together. And maybe that life was built on lies. The words hung between us like smoke. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Ethan, I answered. Did you find him? Not yet, Ethan said, his voice tight. But I found the building. Mom, this place is legitimate. Like, really legitimate. High security, people in suits, the whole thing. Are you going in? I'm in the lobby. They won't let me past without an appointment. Ethan. Listen. The woman on the plane, she knew I was following her. What? How? I don't know. But when she got in the car, she looked right at me, smiled, like she wanted me to see her. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means this is a setup. Whatever's happening, they want us involved. They want us to know. Ethan's breathing was ragged now. I'm calling Claire. I already tried. She's not answering. Because we accused her of things she didn't do, Lucas said loud enough for Ethan to hear. Or because she's part of this, Ethan shot back. The elevator just opened. Someone's coming out. Mom, I'll call you back. The line went dead. Lucas and I stared at each other. What do we do? I asked. We go to Claire's house, he said, standing. If she's innocent, she'll talk to us. And if she's not, then we find out what she's hiding before someone gets hurt. We drove in silence, the streets familiar, but feeling foreign, like I was seeing them through glass. Claire and Ethan's house looked the same as always, the garden blooming with roses Claire had planted last spring. Theo's bike lying on its side in the driveway. Normal, peaceful, a lie. Lucas knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Claire, it's us. We just want to talk. Nothing. He tried the handle, locked. He pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke quickly. 2 minutes later, he hung up. What did you do? I asked. Called a friend. He's bringing the spare key Ethan gave him. You can't just break into her house. I'm not breaking in. I'm entering with a key. And I want to be gone before she gets back. Why? Because if there's something in there that proves she's involved, I need to find it before she destroys it. A car pulled up. A man I didn't recognize got out, handed Lucas a key, and left without a word. Lucas unlocked the door. We stepped inside. The house was dark, curtains drawn, the air still and slightly stale. It smelled like Claire's perfume and something else, something chemical I couldn't place. Lucas moved quickly, opening drawers, checking closets. I stood in the living room, feeling like an intruder in a place I'd been welcomed 100 times before. There were photos on the wall, Ethan and Claire's wedding, Theo's first birthday, family trips to the beach. Happy moments frozen in time. Were any of them real? Marion, Lucas called from upstairs. Come here. I found him in the master bedroom, standing in front of the open closet. He pointed. I looked. Hidden behind Claire's winter coats was a small safe, the kind you bolt to the floor. It was open. Inside were stacks of cash, a passport I didn't recognize, and a burner phone. Lucas picked up the passport, flipped it open. His face went pale. What? He turned it toward me. The photo was Claire. But the name wasn't. It said, Isabel Hartley. I felt the room tilt. That's not possible. Lucas powered on the burner phone. It took a moment to boot up. When it did, The screen filled with messages. All from the same number, all in the last 2 weeks. He scrolled through them, his jaw tight. Listen to this. They're getting suspicious. Good. Let them. We need more time. I'll handle it. You always do. What about the boy? He's not part of this. Keep it that way. Lucas looked at me. Mom. The messages stopped. The last one was sent this morning, right before Claire left with Theo. It said, "It's done. Bring him to the meeting point." My blood went cold. Bring who? Theo? Where? I grabbed the phone, my hands shaking, and scrolled through the messages again, looking for anything, any clue. There. An address. 1447 Riverside Drive, Unit 22. That's 20 minutes from here, Lucas said. We need to go. Now. Wait. I gripped his arm. What if we're wrong? What if there's an explanation? Then we'll hear it. But if Theo's in danger, we don't have time to wait. He was right. I knew he was right. But stepping through that door, following this thread, meant accepting that everything I believed about Claire might be a lie. And I wasn't sure I was ready for that. Lucas was already moving, phone in hand, calling someone. I followed, my legs numb, my heart pounding. If you're still here, subscribe. You're going to want to see how this ends. Outside, the sun was shining. Birds were singing. Somewhere, children were laughing. But in my world, everything had gone dark, and I was about to walk straight into the shadows. The building at 1447 Riverside Drive was industrial, all concrete and steel, the kind of place you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. Warehouses lined both sides of the street, most of them abandoned, windows broken, graffiti crawling up the walls. Lucas parked a block away. We need to be smart about this, he said. If Claire's in there with Theo, we can't just burst in. What if she runs? Then I'll stop her. He pulled a knife from his glove compartment, not a weapon exactly, but not a weapon either. I stared at it. You think it'll come to that? I don't know what to think anymore. We walked carefully, staying close to the buildings, moving in silence. The address led us to a service entrance, the door propped open with a cinder block. Lucas motioned for me to stay back, but I ignored him. If my grandson was inside, I wasn't waiting in the street. The interior was dim, lit by industrial lights hanging from exposed beams. The space was mostly empty except for stacks of plastic crates and a few metal shelves. But in the back, behind a partition, I heard voices. A woman, a man, and a child crying. Theo. I moved before Lucas could stop me, rounding the partition with my pulse hammering in my ears. And there they were. Claire stood beside a man I didn't recognize, tall and polished in a gray suit. Theo was on the floor, his face red and wet with tears, a bruise forming on his arm like someone had grabbed him too hard. I saw red. Get away from him, I said, my voice like gravel. Claire turned, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not surprise, not fear, relief. Marion, thank God. Don't, I spat. Don't you dare act like you're the victim here. She stepped toward me, hands up like she was calming a wild animal. You don't understand. I understand that my grandson is crying, and you're standing next to a man whose company doesn't exist. The man in the suit smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made my skin crawl. Mrs. Fletcher, I've heard so much about you. Who are you? Victor Hartley. He extended a hand like this was a business meeting. I didn't take it. Where's the real Claire? Right here, the woman said, and her voice broke on the words. Marion, I swear, I'm Claire. Then why is your name Isabel Hartley? I threw the passport at her. It landed at her feet. She stared at it like it was a snake. Lucas moved beside me, positioning himself between us and them. Start talking. Now. Victor's smile widened. Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them what, exactly? That you broke into a private property and found a woman with her own child? Theo's not hers, I said. He's mine. Legally? Victor raised an eyebrow. Because I have documents that say otherwise. Documents that say Isabel here is his biological mother, married to Ethan Fletcher, living at the address you both know so well. Those are fake. Are they? He pulled a folder from one of the crates and handed it to Lucas. Birth certificate, marriage license, even a DNA test if you'd like to verify. All legitimate, all filed with the state. Lucas flipped through the papers, his face darkening. These look real. Because they are, Victor said. The question you should be asking isn't who she is. It's who you think she is. I looked at Claire, Isabel, whoever she was. Tears were streaming down her face now, and she looked so small, so broken. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. Please, just tell me the truth. She sank to her knees beside Theo, pulling him into her arms. He clung to her, and despite everything, I could see he knew her, trusted her. My name is Isabel, she whispered, but I'm also Claire. How is that possible? Because there are two of us. Two? She nodded, looking up at me with eyes full of pain. Claire and I are twins, identical twins. Our parents separated us at birth. She got the life I was supposed to have, and I got nothing. The room spun. Lucas swore under his breath. You're saying there are two of you? Have been all along. Not all along, just for the past 8 years, since Claire found me. I shook my head, trying to process. Why? Isabel's voice hardened, because she wanted out. Out of what? Her marriage, her life, everything. She looked at Victor, and something passed between them. She wanted freedom, and I wanted family, so we made a deal. What kind of deal? Lucas asked, his voice dangerously low. We switch. Isabel stood slowly, still holding Theo. Sometimes I'm Claire, living her life, taking care of her son, sleeping in her bed. And sometimes she's free, living as herself, doing whatever she wants with whoever she wants. My legs felt weak. That's insane. Is it? Victor stepped forward. Think about it, Mrs. Fletcher. You've known Claire for 5 years. Has she ever seemed completely consistent? Has she ever had days where she seemed different, off somehow? I thought back. The mood swings, the forgotten details, the way she'd sometimes hold Theo like he was the most precious thing in the world, and other times barely look at him. The handwriting, I whispered, sometimes right-handed, sometimes left. Isabel nodded. Claire's right-handed. I'm left. We tried to be careful, but we're not perfect. Lucas moved closer to Theo. Give me my nephew. No. Isabel held him tighter. He's mine too. I've raised him. I've fed him, bathed him, sung him to sleep. Half his memories are with me, not her. You're not his mother, aren't I? She looked at me. Marion, who took him to his first day of preschool? Who sat with him when he had the flu last month? Who taught him to tie his shoes? I couldn't answer, because I didn't know. I couldn't remember which version of Claire had been there for those moments. Where is she? I finally asked. Where's the real Claire? Victor checked his watch. If everything went according to plan, she should be landing in Costa Rica right about now. My stomach dropped. What? She's leaving, Isabel said quietly. For good. She's tired of pretending, tired of being a wife and mother. So we made the switch permanent. I become Claire forever. She gets to disappear. And Ethan? Lucas demanded. What about him? What about him? Isabel's voice rose. I love Ethan, more than she ever did. I'm the one who's been sleeping beside him, listening to his problems, supporting his career. For 3 years, I've been the better wife. 3 years? I felt sick. The switches started 8 years ago, Victor explained. But they became more frequent, more permanent. For the last 3 years, Isabel has been Claire about 60% of the time. That's impossible. Lucas shook his head. Ethan would know. Would he? Isabel challenged. When's the last time your brother really looked at his wife? When's the last time any of you really saw me? Saw us? The words hit like a slap because they were true. We'd been so caught up in our own lives, so sure we knew Claire, that we'd stopped paying attention to the details that mattered. My phone rang. Ethan. I answered, my hand shaking. Mom? His voice was frantic. I talked to Victor Hartley. He told me everything. I looked at Victor, who smiled. Ethan, come home. I can't. I'm at the airport. Claire's here. The real Claire. My heart stopped. What? She came back. She said she changed her mind, that she can't go through with it. She wants to come home. Behind me, Isabel made a sound like a wounded animal. Ethan, listen to me carefully. Don't let her leave. I'm not. We're getting on a plane in 20 minutes. I'm bringing her home. We're going to fix this. The line went dead. Isabel was crying now, full sobs that shook her whole body. She said she wouldn't come back. She promised. Victor's expression darkened. This complicates things. What does that mean? Lucas stepped between them and us. It means, Victor said slowly, that Isabel's entire existence depends on Claire staying gone. Her documents, her identity, everything I've built for her only works if there's no one to contradict the story. So what happens now? Now? Victor pulled a gun from his jacket. Now we improvise. Lucas moved instantly, pushing me behind him. Put that down. I don't think so. Victor's voice was calm, almost bored. You see, I've invested a lot in Isabel. Time, money, resources. I can't have that investment compromised. This isn't about money, I said. This is about a child. Everything's about money, Mrs. Fletcher. Isabel needed a new identity. I provided one. In return, she helps me with certain transactions. Legitimate ones, I assure you. But if the real Claire comes back, if people start asking questions, my entire operation falls apart. So you'll what? Kill us? If I have to. The room went silent except for Theo's quiet crying. Victor, Isabel said, her voice small. You said no one would get hurt. Plans change. I looked at my grandson, at this woman who'd been playing house with my family, at the man holding a gun like it was just another business tool. Isabel stood slowly, setting Theo down. Victor, no. We had a deal. The deal's off. He kept the gun trained on Lucas. The moment Claire walks back into that house, you're done. We're done. Then I'll leave. Isabel's voice was stronger now. I'll disappear. You give me new papers, a new name. I'll go somewhere no one will find me. And what about the boy? She looked at Theo, and I saw her heart break. He stays with his real family. Victor considered this. You'd give up everything? I'd give up everything to keep them safe. She turned to me. Marion, I know you have no reason to believe me. But I love Theo. I love this family. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Lucas still had the knife. Victor had the gun. I had nothing but a grandmother's desperate need to protect her grandson. So I did the only thing I could think of. I stepped in front of Theo. If you're going to shoot someone, shoot me. But you let that boy go. Victor studied me. You'd die for him? Without hesitation. Even knowing everything you know now? Even knowing Isabel's been lying to you? Especially then. Because he's innocent, and he deserves a life. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Victor lowered the gun. You're braver than your daughter-in-law. Either of them. He looked at Isabel. You have 12 hours. Disappear. If I ever see you again, the deal's off. Isabel nodded, tears streaming. She kissed Theo's head one last time. Be good, sweetheart. Be so good. Then she was gone, running into the shadows, leaving only the echo of footsteps and a little boy who didn't understand why his mother was saying goodbye. Victor holstered his gun. Mrs. Fletcher, you have remarkable courage. I hope you use it wisely. Tell the police, and I'll tell them about your breaking and entering, about your son assaulting me, about kidnapping. The stories I can create are endless. He walked past us, paused at the door. Oh, and Mrs. Fletcher? When Claire comes home, you might want to have a long conversation about what family really means, because from where I'm standing, Isabel was more of a mother than Claire ever was. Then he was gone too, and we were alone with Theo, who looked up at me with confused eyes. Grandma, where did Mama go? I picked him up, held him close, and lied. She had to go away for a while, sweetheart. But I'm here. I'll always be here. Lucas was already on his phone, calling Ethan. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they were making was uglier than anything I'd imagined. And somewhere in the sky, my son was bringing home a wife who'd abandoned her child for freedom. What do you say to that? How do you forgive that? I didn't know. But I was about to find out. We took Theo back to my house. He fell asleep in the car, exhausted from crying, and I carried him inside like I used to when he was a baby, when the world was simpler and grandmothers only had to worry about bedtimes and vegetables. Lucas made coffee. Neither of us drank it. We just sat at the kitchen table, staring at our cups like they held answers. Ethan's plane lands in 3 hours, Lucas said finally. I nodded. What do we tell him? Everything. He deserves the truth. Does he? I looked toward the living room where Theo was sleeping on the couch. Does that boy deserve to know his mother traded him for freedom? Lucas didn't answer because there was no good answer. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it. The message was from Isabel. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But please tell Theo I loved him. Every second I had with him was real. That part was never a lie. I showed Lucas. He read it, his jaw tight. You believe her? I don't know what I believe anymore. Another text came through, a photo. It showed Isabel at what looked like a bus station, her hair cut short, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. She looked younger somehow, or maybe just unburdened. The woman who raised me said I was a mistake, that I should be grateful anyone took me in. Claire got parents who loved her. I got people who tolerated me until they didn't. When she found me 8 years ago, she said we could share everything. Her life, her husband, her child. For the first time, I had a family. Can you understand that? I typed back slowly. You should have told the truth. Would you have accepted me? I stared at the question, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Would I have? If Ethan had brought home his wife and said, by the way, she has an identical twin who'll be helping raise our child, would I have welcomed that? No, I wouldn't have. Exactly. So I took what I could get. And I loved them with everything I had. The messages stopped. I set my phone down. She's right, you know, I said quietly. We would have rejected her. That doesn't make what she did okay, Lucas argued. Doesn't it? Or does it just make it human? He looked at me. Mom, she lied for 3 years. So did Claire. I stood, walked to the window. Your brother's wife decided being a mother was too hard, so she found someone to do it for her, and that someone loved her child enough to pretend to be someone else. You're defending her? I'm trying to understand her. I turned to face him. What Isabel did was wrong, but what Claire did was worse. She abandoned her son. Not physically, not where anyone could see, but in every way that mattered, she gave up. The words felt like betrayal, speaking them out loud, but they were true. Lucas ran his hands through his hair. What do we tell Ethan? I don't know, but he deserves more than a woman who ran away the first chance she got. What if she's changed? What if she really wants to come back? Then she gets to prove it. I picked up my phone again. But Theo's not a test subject. He's a little boy who deserves stability. If you're still watching, comment below what you'd do in my position. Would you forgive her? We spent the next 2 hours cleaning the house, as if making everything look normal would somehow make it normal. I put fresh sheets on the guest bed, made sandwiches no one would eat, watered plants that didn't need watering. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind from spinning. When the doorbell rang, my heart stopped. Lucas opened it. Ethan stood there, and beside him was Claire. The real Claire. She looked different from Isabel. Same face, same features, but something in her eyes was harder, more brittle. She wore expensive clothes, carried designer luggage, and her hair was styled in a way Claire had never bothered with before. She saw me and smiled. Marion. God, I've missed you. The words felt hollow. Where's Theo? She asked, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Asleep, I said, my voice cold. Can I see him? Lucas blocked her path. First, we talk. Ethan looked confused. Mom, what's going on? Sit down, I said. Both of you. We gathered in the living room, Theo still sleeping innocently on the couch. Claire perched on the edge of the armchair like she didn't quite belong there. She didn't. I told them everything, every detail. The switching, Isabel, Victor Hartley, the warehouse. Ethan's face went from confusion to horror to rage so fast I thought he might be sick. Claire sat perfectly still throughout, her expression unreadable. When I finished, the silence was suffocating. Is it true? Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Claire? She didn't answer immediately. She looked at Theo, at the rise and fall of his small chest, and something cracked in her perfect facade. Yes. Ethan stood abruptly, started pacing. How long? 8 years since we met, 3 years since we started switching regularly. Regularly? His voice broke. You traded our life like it was a timeshare? I needed space, Ethan. I was drowning. So you got someone else to be my wife? To be his mother? He pointed at Theo. She stood too, defensive now. I never stopped being his mother. Yes, you did. Lucas's voice was hard. You left. Isabel stayed. Claire turned on him. You don't understand what it's like. Being married, having a child, playing house every single day with no escape. I needed to breathe. So you ran, I said, and let someone else love your family. She had the grace to look ashamed. I was going to come back, after a few years when Theo was older, when things were easier. But you didn't. Lucas pulled out his phone, showed her the messages. You were leaving for good. Costa Rica, a new life. You only came back because Isabel backed out. That's not... Claire stopped, caught. Her shoulders sagged. You're right. I was leaving. But on that plane, I realized I couldn't. I couldn't abandon him. Too late, Ethan said. You already did. The moment you decided another woman could raise our son, you abandoned him. Theo stirred on the couch. Mama? He said sleepily. Claire moved toward him, but Ethan caught her arm. Don't. He's my son too. I am his mother, she said, her voice breaking. Please. Theo sat up fully now, rubbing his eyes. He looked at Claire, then at Ethan, then at me, confusion written all over his small face. Mama, why is everyone sad? Claire knelt beside the couch, reached for his hand. Baby, I'm so sorry. I had to go away, but I'm back now. Theo pulled his hand away. You're not my mama. The room froze. What? Claire's voice was barely audible. You're not my mama. My mama has soft hands. Yours are hard. He touched her palm, then shook his head. And you smell different. Out of the mouths of children comes the most devastating truth. This 4-year-old boy, who couldn't articulate the difference between the woman who'd raised him and the woman who'd given birth to him, knew in his bones that something was wrong. Theo, honey, Claire tried again, but he was already climbing off the couch, running to me, wrapping his arms around my legs. Grandma, where's my real mama? I picked him up, held him close, and looked at Claire over his head. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, her expensive clothes suddenly looking like a costume she didn't know how to wear. Ethan turned away, his shoulders shaking. Lucas stood by the window, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. I think you should leave, I said quietly to Claire. Marion, please. You heard him. I held Theo tighter. He doesn't know you. And whose fault is that? Claire left that night. Ethan didn't stop her. He stood at the window watching her get into a cab, his face blank, and when the taillights disappeared around the corner, he sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands. For 3 days, the house existed in a strange kind of limbo. Ethan moved through the rooms like a ghost, going through the motions of being a father, but not really present. Theo asked for his mama twice. After that, he stopped asking. I think he understood, in that way children do, that some questions don't have good answers. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Mrs. Fletcher, it's Isabel. My breath caught. Where are you? Far enough. I needed to know. How is he? How's Theo? He's confused, hurt. He thinks you abandoned him. I did abandon him. Her voice broke. I had no choice. You always have a choice. I know. I made the wrong one. Silence stretched between us. Then she spoke again, quieter. I wrote him a letter. Would you give it to him? When he's older? When he can understand? I don't know if understanding will make it hurt less. Maybe not. But he deserves to know someone loved him enough to walk away. That doesn't make sense. It does when staying would destroy him. She paused. Victor's gone, by the way. Disappeared. The company's dissolved. Whatever he was building, it's over now. Good. Marion? Yes? Thank you. For protecting him when I couldn't. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. The line went dead. That weekend, Ethan filed for divorce. Claire didn't contest it. She signed the papers from wherever she'd gone, some beach town in Mexico, according to her lawyer, and just like that, a 5-year marriage dissolved into nothing. Ethan got full custody. Claire got supervised visitation she never used. Theo started therapy. The therapist said he was resilient, that children often are, but I saw the way he'd freeze sometimes when a dark-haired woman walked by. How he'd search her face, looking for something familiar, looking for Isabel. Months passed. Theo's 5th birthday came and went. He blew out candles, opened presents, smiled for photos. But at night, I'd hear him crying, calling for a mama who wasn't coming back. Either of them. One evening, I found a shoebox in the back of my closet. Inside were photos from Claire and Ethan's wedding, pictures of Theo as a baby, family moments I'd captured without thinking. I flipped through them slowly, and I realized something that made my chest tight. I couldn't tell which Claire was in most of them. The woman holding newborn Theo with tears in her eyes, Was that the real Claire or Isabel pretending? The mother teaching him to walk, patient and gentle? Which one was that? The wife kissing Ethan at his birthday party 3 years ago? Whose love was real? I'd spent months trying to separate them, to figure out who was the villain and who was the victim. But looking at these photos, I realized the truth was messier than that. Isabel had loved my family, really loved them, and Claire had wanted to. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it had to be. Ethan found me there, sitting on the floor surrounded by memories I couldn't decode. He sat beside me, picked up a photo. "That's Isabel," he said quietly. "How do you know?" "The way she's looking at me." Claire never looked at me like that. Not once. I studied the photo. In it, a woman who wore Claire's face was laughing at something off camera, her hand on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes soft with affection. "When did you figure it out?" I asked. "The day they came back." The real Claire, she hugged me, and I knew immediately. Her arms felt wrong, too stiff, like she was hugging a stranger. "What would you have done if you'd known earlier about the switching?" "I don't know." He set the photo down. Part of me wants to say I would have been angry, would have demanded the truth. But honestly, the version of Claire I fell in love with, the one who showed up when I needed her, who made me laugh, who was patient with Theo, that was probably Isabel most of the time. "So, did you love the wrong woman? Or did I love the right one? I just had the wrong name for her." Ethan stood, offered me his hand. "Come on. Theo wants you to read him a story. We don't get our stories anymore. Tell me in the comments what you think happened to Isabel." As I tucked Theo in that night, he looked up at me with those serious eyes that seemed too old for his face. "Grandma? Yes, sweetheart? Do you think my mama's happy? Where she is?" I smoothed his hair back. "I think she's trying to be." "Will she come back?" "I don't know. Would you want her to?" He thought about it. The mama who smelled like cookies and sang songs. That one. Not the other one. I nodded. "I know, baby." That night, after everyone was asleep, I opened my laptop and wrote an email I'd been composing in my head for weeks. "To whoever Isabel is now," I typed. "Theo asks about you, not Claire. You. He remembers the cookies you made, the songs you sang, the way you'd let him stay up late to watch the stars. He doesn't understand why you left, and I don't know how to explain it. Maybe there's no good explanation for loving someone else's life more than your own. Or maybe that's exactly what love is, wanting something so badly you're willing to pretend it's yours. You gave my grandson 3 years of memories, some of his best, and I hate you for lying. But I'm grateful you loved him. Those two things can be true at once. If you're out there, if you're reading this, know that he's okay. We're making sure of that. And maybe someday, when he's old enough, I'll give him your letter. Not because you deserve his forgiveness, but because he deserves the truth, whatever that means now." I didn't send it. Instead, I saved it in my drafts, a message to a ghost who might never read it. 3 months later, an envelope arrived. No return address, postmarked from somewhere in Canada. Inside was a single photo. It showed a woman with short red hair and different clothes, standing beside a lake, smiling. On the back, written in left-handed script, "Tell him I'm happy. Tell him I hope he is too." I put the photo in the shoebox with all the others, another piece of a puzzle that would never quite fit together. And then I went downstairs where Ethan was making breakfast, and Theo was building towers out of blocks. And I chose to live in the story I had instead of the one I'd lost. Because that's what family is, I realized. Not the people who share your blood or your name, but the ones who show up, who stay, who choose you every day, even when it's hard. Claire gave birth to Theo, but Isabel raised him. And now it was our turn. Ethan, Lucas, and me, the family that remained. Sometimes love isn't a straight line from one heart to another. Sometimes it's complicated, messy, tangled up in lies and good intentions, and people pretending to be someone they're not. But at the end of the day, love is a choice, and we were choosing Theo. Every single day. That has to count for something. That has to be enough. 6 months after everything fell apart, Ethan met someone new. A teacher named Vanessa with kind eyes and no secrets. She was patient with Theo, never tried to replace anyone, just slowly became part of our strange, fractured family. On Theo's 6th birthday, she was there, helping blow up balloons, cutting cake, laughing at his jokes. And when he called her Miss Vanessa and asked if she'd teach him to paint, I saw Ethan smile, really smile, for the first time in a year. Maybe that's the lesson here, that families break and rebuild, that love isn't always pure or simple, that sometimes the people who hurt us are also the people who tried their hardest not to. Isabel lied, but she also loved. Claire left, but she also gave life. And me? I held on, to my sons, to my grandson, to the belief that even shattered things can be made beautiful again. As I tucked Theo in that night, he looked up at me. Grandma, do you think families can have 2 mamas? I think families can be whatever we need them to be, even if one's far away. Even then. He nodded, satisfied, and closed his eyes. And I sat there, in the dim light, watching this boy who'd been fought over and abandoned, and loved too much, and not enough. And I made him a silent promise. I'll protect you. I'll stay. I'll be the constant in your story, even when everything else changes. Because that's what grandmothers do. We hold the pieces together when everything else falls apart. The phone rang at 3 a.m. again, a year later. But this time, it was just Ethan, calling from a layover, wanting to hear my voice. We talked about nothing and everything. About Theo's soccer game, about Vanessa's cooking, about the house that was slowly feeling like home again. And when I hung up, I looked out at the dark street and thought about Isabel, wherever she was, about Claire living her freedom, about all the versions of family we'd tried and lost and built again. Subscribe if you believe families can survive anything. Drop a comment if you think I made the right choice. The truth is, I don't know if there was a right choice. Just the one I made, and I'd make it again, every single time. Because at the end of the day, love isn't about biology or honesty or even staying. It's about the moment when everything's broken and you decide to pick up the pieces anyway. That's family. That's enough. That has to be enough.